Coach Hunter mentioned Nate Allen a while ago, and it's odd as this is, the last conversation I had with him Sunday, the last thing he said to me is, will you ask Coach if he plans to have anyone on his staff from Arkansas? He said, I'm too sick to go. And that was Sunday. That's the last thing he said to me. Can you address that? I mean, I feel neglectful if I didn't ask you.
No, listen, and I have much respect for you asking that question on its behalf. As we assemble the staff, listen, people that understand this great state, that's important to me. Okay, and not only I think about this. I think about my nights in the Bass Pro Shop pyramid overlooking, and I'd always point out to the recruits and say, "See that bridge right there? That goes to the great state of Arkansas." And we've had a lot of players I've been able to coach, and I've recruited this wonderful state for so long, and had relationships. In fact, I think I was looking at it even when I was talking to Hunter. I think a third of the guys on the roster already at the University of Arkansas, at some point, I'd had a conversation with over the last 4 or 5 years. Quincy, I was his first offer out of high school, and he won't admit how small he was when I first offered him. And that relationship, I just think look, man, it comes full circle. And there's some of these guys. I was sitting down with some of these players that I was sharing with Hunter that a couple of them, they're like, well, you beat me at this previous school, then you beat me this past year. I'm staying part of this team because I don't want to have to go against you again. But we will look for people on the staff that make sense. I assume that there are going to be some people with some good ties to this great state and this wonderful university. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Coach Ryan, Evan Camico, Pig Trail Nation. Curious for you, you were involved in the Memphis community. What excites you about getting involved in the Arkansas community here in Northwest Arkansas? As last night, yelling in fans' faces as well. What just excites you about the future here?
Yeah, Evan, I mean, if you can't go and see what those the students, absolutely amazing. They kept me from doing it. I was gonna put on one of those overalls with the stripes on it, but they didn't know. I mean, I thought it was gonna be pretty cool, but I withheld myself. But those students got me fired up, and that's that passion of the fan base. I mean, just seeing it, from the moment I touched down, the first thing we went and we watched, and I got to talk to Coach Cal and how much he loves this place, and I got to hear about those things. And then you think about the Children's Hospital of Northwest Arkansas. Like, to me, we're going to give back to this community. My wife and I are going to do everything we can to make this place as great of a place as we can. And how can we give back? Like, what are some community things that we can do? We were 5th in the country at Memphis last year in community service hours, and to me, that's as important as anything we do, because I think if we can give back to the community, right, it means so much. And a lot of those people are going to be, in the stands and being season ticket holders. So whatever we can do, I'm all part of it. And I know there's a Veteran Affairs, there's a VA hospital here. Like, that was something I was huge with in Memphis, giving tickets to the vets. As soon as it slows down, if it ever does, maybe February, I'm going to get out and want to visit with the VA and see how we can help them. There's so many great organizations and so many great people in this community. My family and I are going to do everything we possibly can to give back.
Last one for me. You had those two guys over there just come in here and say they're all in for you. What excited you about getting those guys back for 2026?
Well, listen, it starts with the type of, and I'm not trying to repeat myself. It starts with the type of young men there, because I had an understanding of who they were, and anybody can watch film and know that they're super talented, and know that there's also, like I told them, I said, guys, we haven't scratched the surface, and they know both that. Like, that's why I said I'm going to push them, I'm going to challenge them. And when they sit there and say, "You're right, absolutely," and you sit down with a kid and you tell them you're going to push them and hold them accountable, and they start sweating and batting eye. I'm like, cool, get out of my office. Good luck to you. But those two, it's the mindset, the integrity, the approach. They want to be leaders. They want to see this team succeed, right? I told them, like, there's no more of this loser mentality. And they've bought into it, and in a quick term, and they're going to be the ones that infect the rest of the locker room in a positive manner and say, hey, this is what it is. This is what it looks like to be all in. This is what our culture is about. This is what Arkansas football needs to look like. So guess what? Just like what everybody said, wow, great first week. We're not even, I think I've been here for like 10 months, but I think I've been, a couple of days. Like, wait till the week keeps going on. Wait till the weekend. We're not sleeping, okay? We're going to build this thing the right way. And again, it starts with the great players that are already on this roster.
Yeah, Anthony Christensen. Okay. Anthony Christensen, HawkSports.com. Ryan, I just got to see a little bit of it when Arkansas played at Memphis earlier this year, but I guess just what are the main, aspects of an identity you want for your first year, with the roster, with the coaching staff, et cetera?
Yeah. I'm not going to give you a coach speak answer, okay? And just no different when people say, give us here's the deal. You're going to have a bunch of guys that love football. A bunch of guys that are going to be tough, a bunch of guys that are going to be resilient, a bunch of guys that are going to love each other, a bunch of guys that are going to work really hard to make this state proud. and that shows up in between the white lines. Right, I truly believe, there's a direct correlation to how we do things off the field, the culture that we're going to build. It shows up on game day, and when people watch this, they're going to say, "Man, that team plays with relentless effort. That team cares about one another, and they're going to be disciplined, they're going to be detailed, and they're going to fight their asses every single day to give everything they have."
Brian, congratulations, welcome. I heard a cut of yours in a recent interview about this is not a 3-year turnaround. This is something that we're going to turn around in a hurry. What's your message to the fan base for how and why that will happen?
Well, it is. This is a different day and age. Things do take time, right? The culture to build, you have to build that every single day, and that's what it's going to start with. And you're going to have to put the pieces together. And when I say it's going to happen, people say, well, project the number ones. I can't do that. I can tell you this, we're going to be the best in the country at what we can control. And that's right, the attitude, the effort, the approach every single day. Those things we're going to be the absolute best in the country. But that's something we got to work to build. And there's going to be some people that are currently on the roster that are going to be back that we're going to have to make sure, hey, it may take a little bit more pressing. But these freshmen we're going to bring in, these young guys, we're going to have to develop them. Right? We're going to recruit the heck out of high school football players and develop them. We're going to be the best in the country at developing. But what that looks like, similar to what Hunter said, is we're already starting to see a movement in how these guys are believing and what they want and a positive mindset. I already told them, we're changing out light bulbs the other night. I said, I want brighter light bulbs down here. And someone looked at me like, what? I said, yeah, not next month. I said, no, tonight, if I got to go to Walmart myself and start changing them out, I will. But that's part of it. I want these guys to say, man, this is different. This is going to feel different, and we're going to go earn everything we do. But she knows exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, when I FaceTiming her and at 12:30, she says, "Where are you at?" I'm still at the office. I'm up on a ladder changing some bulbs. No, it's just part of it, and I think it's a one step at a time deal. We're going to take this one day at a time. But if you do it the right way, it's going to show up in results on Saturdays.
Hunter, just one quick one on the logistics. When we talked to you, when the change was made, you were one of the first ones in this cycle to make the coaching change. A lot more followed. Did maybe the number of openings complicate the search at all?
Not really, Daniel. I mean, I think we're all kind of swimming in the same pond with the same coaching candidates when it all came to, when you saw how it all kind of fell out and fell into place. Many of the people that were in the final 8 or 9 that I talked to are now head coaches at other institutions, and so you do have to wait till some dominoes fall for sure. But I don't know that it overcomplicated things because there's always a lot of openings. This was an inordinate amount of openings, but it didn't necessarily overcomplicate it. It gave me an opportunity again during those 60 days to talk to the right number of coaches, determine who was truly interested, who was truly a good fit, who was not interested, who was trying to get a raise at their current institution, things of that nature, and then really narrow that field down to a group of quality coaches.
Hi, Ryan. Overall, just what excites you the most about getting the opportunity to coach in the SEC, and how do you get Arkansas back to that standard of winning in the SEC?
Yeah, Tyler, great question. I think it starts with, we understand that this is the best conference in college football, okay? And the excitement of not just coaching the SEC, but coaching at the University of Arkansas, a place that I believe is going to set the standard in this conference, okay? And that may take a little bit of time, but we are going to be the standard of what an SEC football program will look like. And how do we get it there? Similar to what I said earlier, it's every single day giving everything we have and pouring into this program. As Hunter alluded to earlier, that the resources that we've been given and we're going to continue to fight for are going to be a huge part of stepping in that right direction. And then ultimately the players, getting the buy-in, the work, right? I mean, they won't allow me. I made the joke when I was flying over the stadium landing here. I was like, man, it'd be great if we go and start spring practice. Or maybe we can steal a couple bowl practices or do something like that. I'll be itching and scratching to get on the field, get those guys in the weight room, start meeting with them, implementing our scheme, and teaching them what it's all about.
And then this defense last year was kind of in the bottom of the barrel for a handful of aspects in the conference. I guess getting a guy like Quincy back is a great start, but how do you plan to reshape the identity of this defense?
For sure. Listen, I've met with a lot of the current players and see where they fit and what our future looks like. It's always going to start with the current roster, okay? And then, what does that look like? Are there some young guys, I think, that may have not gotten playing time that, you know what, they just need to get, and they need the opportunity to continue to develop and maybe understand what the coaching needs to look like in order to get them to be able to step on the field. So there's going to be some guys like, oh, I forgot he was on our roster. I'm glad to see he's making splashes, and hopefully we get to see that in spring and then through OTAs and through fall camp and then on Saturdays. And then also, right, the portal is that you have to look and see if it makes sense to add those type of guys. But we got to explore, right, offense, defense, and special teams, and find the right type of people that will allow us to win the games.
Coach Silverfield, give you some synergy. Coach Broyles had twin daughters. His tenet for winning was some of the things you've already mentioned, turnover margin. How do you impact turnover margin, and what specifically in practice takes place to make that happen?
Yeah, well, Coach Broyles is obviously a legend, and someone had told me that, and so I appreciate that good synergy. They had twin girls, so I always say this. Someone said when you had the girls, is it going to take away? Is it going to be a distraction? No, it's made me a better coach, And anyways, you can see my passion for my family. And how much they mean to me. But with the turnover margin, it is truly, people talk about the keys to victory, and a lot of these coaches go into analytics and statistical stuff. That's great, and that's what you do, right? You always got to have one more point than the opponent. So there's going to be some games. Maybe we win a game 3-0. Maybe it's 48-59. I don't know what the heck it's going to look like. But with turnover margin, you have to preach. You have to talk about it all the time. All right, we're going to use the terms OTB and TTB. All right, OTB is going to stand for own the ball. Okay, KJ and I were just talking about that this morning, and we kind of were joking around about something that's some of the stuff we did at Memphis. But when we talk about owning the football, it starts with everyday drills. Okay, so every coach in the country talks about take care of the ball, but you can notice, like, how does a team truly preach it with what ball security looks like? But you have to practice, you have to talk about it, and any time that it shows up, I don't care if it's a Tuesday practice on August 6th, if that ball security looks inadequate, you have to approach it, and you have to approach it right then. And the players have to understand there's a standard to ball security. The quarterback has to make great decisions. That starts with the snap. That also starts with the communication in the return game. We've seen year in, year after, especially this year in college football, there are more mistakes made in the return game by poor communication. That's part of the education of what the rules are, and that should look like, and the ability to make that communication. And then we talk about taking the football away. All right, that's the TTB, take the ball. And you got to preach it, right? Every day in practice, taking the punches. We talk about the old peanut punch from Peanut Tillman, right? The guy that I saw get some punches on Adrian Peterson back in the day when I was with the Vikings. Hey, you got to talk about when the ball's in the air, going and attacking it. And so that's the stuff that has to show up. We do a takeaway circuit and a turnover circuit every day in practice. That stuff, but guess what? You have to implement in your program immediately. It can't just say, oh, okay, before the game, guys, make sure we take care of the football and go get some takeaways. It's got to be embedded in our program. That's got to be part of our DNA. And that's how you win some of those games we talked about earlier, some of those close games. That's how you find a way to win those.
Coach, you talked about wanting to build something sustainable, but we are in the age of the transfer portal and guys getting poached left and right. How realistic is it to build any consistency, not just in roster, but in play for any program in today's college football?
That's a great question. Well, if you look over the last 10 years, I think the University of Memphis football program has probably been one of the most consistent programs in the entire country. And I take pride in that. And, that was part of the conversations with Hunters. Maybe this past year at Memphis, we didn't go undefeated, right? But if you look at the track record of what we've been able to build, the sustainability, 51 straight games of 20 points or more, that's pretty darn consistent, right? The longest streak in the country by far and away. That's called consistency. You took a quarterback that we started at 17 years old that started 4 straight years in college football. Right? Then all of a sudden we brought in a guy that had won, I think, 3 or 4 games in a 3-year period. He wins his first 6 games at the University of Memphis, right? You talk about what it is. It's talk about keeping guys that want to be a part of something, that want to continue to build it the right way. That's the sustainability. And be able to keep coaches that are so proud to live in Fayetteville, this great community, and be a part of this thing. And it's got to be by me understanding as a head coach, right? When we have a good season next year, well, the next year it has to be even better. And it's my job to continue to challenge myself and improve every single year. How do we continue to make this thing better? I'm going to challenge the administration. I'm going to challenge every single person. We're going to continue to push the envelope in the right direction. And ultimately, we're going to be judged by wins and losses. But you can do it, and I think you can have sustained success year after year after year in college football. And I think those that don't are afraid to keep up with be able to fight every single day. But we come out swinging, I can promise you that.